was filmed in 1900, and this a Davis Cup match at Wimbledon in 1913. For years, the British won most of the tennis prizes, until in the early 20s, a great new French star helped to raise the status of the game. Suzanne Lenglen, renowned not only as a player, but as a personality. At the same time, across the Atlantic arose the fabulous Big Bill Tilden, bringing a new approach to a game which now attracted worldwide interest. But by 1924, with the men too, the French invasion was in full swing. Henri Cochet from Lyon, René Lacoste from Neuilly, and Jean Barotra, the bounding Basque. For 6 years, each was world champion twice. And the greatest showman of them all was, and still is, Jean Barotra. But the French supremacy collapsed with the return, 10 years after winning his first world title, of Big Bill Tilden in a comeback that was successful. The first of a number of remarkable American players in the 30s. We still recall Sidney B. Wood at Wimbledon, the 16-year-old wonder boy. Only 4 years later, he returns the champion of 1931. And Donald Budge, a star who shone just before the war, unique at Wimbledon in winning all 3 major 1938 events without the loss of even one set. But many believe the greatest of them all was Ellsworth Vines, seen in near court at his peak, the American Championships of 1932. The masterly style of Vines is the supreme example of the strides leading tennis players had made in the first 30 years of the century. And just as between the wars the men of Europe were forced to notice the spectacular advance of America, so even the Gallic fire of Suzanne was damped in time by little poker face. Helen Wills, a star at 17, 8 times winner of the ladies' singles, 2 better than Suzanne herself. Yet all through her triumphant career, Helen's chief rival was another Helen, the popular Helen Jacobs. But Helen Wills was seldom to be seen with the other Helen off court, although the two came from the same suburb of San Francisco, studied at the same school, and were groomed by the same coach. And after she'd retired, she was succeeded in 1939 not by Helen Jacobs, but by another American, Alice Marble, who even when she just recovered from pleurisy, could hit the ball as hard as most men. Yet, before the Second World War, the Americans didn't have it all their own way. From Spain in the 20s came Senorita de Alvarez, and from Britain, the courageous Betty Nuttall, known from her youngest days as our Betty. Representing Britain in the 30s was the graceful Kay Stammers, who fought her way to the final of the American Championships. And Britain produced the 1937 world champion, the tenacious Dorothy Round. In all spheres of tennis, British players could now confidently face the rest of the world. Hughes and Tuckey, the famous doubles team playing in the far court, are remembered to this day. And in singles as well, there were outstanding players, like the stylish H.W. Austin, known to millions as Bunny Austin. But probably the greatest British player was Fred Perry, here playing in doubles with Pat Hughes. In singles, Perry was world champion from 1934 to 36. It was no sensation those days when the superb team of Austin and Perry, Hughes and Tuckey not only won but retained the Davis Cup during 4 brilliant years, when all the time the world was facing keen competition from yet another country, perhaps better known for its cricketers. From Australia had come the orthodox Jack Crawford, and then the unusual two-handed John Bromwich. Every one of the pre-war greats now has his own place in the story of tennis. Today, a new generation already commands many worshippers, but is still too near to us to rank with the gods. For at the end of the war, only a few of the former stars carried on playing championship tennis. Bromwich himself, Britain's Kay Stammers, and of course the irresistible Jean Barotra, born as long ago as 1898. At first, most of the post-war prizes went to comparatively unknown newcomers, the Americans Kramer and Brown, the controversial Falkenberg, and Richard Savitt, the 1951 champion. Yet, just as in the 20s and 30s, other nations sent forth their great players. So, since 1946, we have seen Ivan Petrov, the giant Frenchman from Indochina, become world champion. We have acknowledged Yaroslav Drobny from Czechoslovakia as one of the true artists of the game. And we have acclaimed the Australian Frank Sedgman for his brilliant strokes and footwork. Gorgeous Gussie Moran, a good tennis player, is perhaps better known for her clothes. Doris Hart may well be regarded as a great player, for in her youth she suffered from polio and yet since has reached the American finals. And future tennis historians may well leave the name of Louise Brough on the scroll of fame. World champion of 1948, 49 and 50. And what will the historians say of Maureen Connolly, American champion when only 16 years old? A slow motion of Little Mo on the near side helps us to understand her amazing command of the court. Tennis indeed has a great history. Youth points the way to an even greater future for a game which is cherished by old and young.